For you guys, when you are going through the cohort, what's a interesting takeaway that you could share with some of us who are either in the cohort now or maybe thinking about joining? Just open general advice. Yim, give us some advice.
Yes, thank you. Sorry. I guess I especially wanted to speak because I am one of the students that actually went through the program remotely. But since I was interested in the program since 2018, I had some opportunities to be in the physical classroom as well. And so when COVID hit, I was really concerned. I was like, oh my gosh, how are we gonna do everything remotely? But honestly, I liked remote work a lot through Learn. Like when you're in a classroom, it's really cool, everybody's there. But honestly, when you are going through the program remotely, I feel like the lecture can be so much more clear because the instructor is sharing their screen, their code. You can take all the screenshots you want, whereas in a physical classroom, you're bending your neck over, not quite sure what the instructor is saying, so that was really cool. And one thing as well that I did like working, what I liked about working remotely or learning remotely is that it was super, super easy to ping the instructors, flag them down in Slack, oh, we need some help, and the instructors would just say oh yeah, just give us a moment, or I'm with this other group right now, give me a moment. But in a physical classroom, it's kind of harder to gauge that as an instructor because you have to physically be over there with that pair. And I feel like sometimes some people might not feel like they're getting the help they need, but with remote work and with Slack, up and coming and everything, it's very easy to ask your questions and know when you'll be helped. So I like that a lot. And also sorry, long answer. I was also really concerned about being remote and not really being able to connect with everybody. But I honestly feel like I made so many friends and Learn remotely. It was pretty great. I walked out of the program with more friends than I had before. So that was really cool. And Learn does a really good job of having icebreaker questions and activities. But beyond that, if you do join the program, I really do implore you to, take the first step, be courageous, brave, and, try to make personal connections because they really do last your lifetime.
Who else is gonna sprinkle some wisdom on us?
All right, so when you're going through the bootcamp experience, it can be pretty intimidating because you might have people coming in with some experience, whether it's relating to knowing how to do HTML from the MySpace days or, just doing some sort of mathematical programming from a mandatory class in university. There's going to be a wide range of experiences, and it can be pretty intimidating because when you're sitting there in class and people are just popping off answers to questions, you're probably thinking, oh goodness, they're getting it so faster than me. And then it just starts to build up and you start feeling bad and you're just I don't think I'm meant for this, or, those thoughts start happening, and it happens to everyone in the program. It definitely do it at your own pace. The part that I had the hardest time understanding was SQL. I'm not kidding you, SQL. I was just I am so done with this database crap. I don't know why we're learning this or whatever. And now this is my job. So everyone learns at a different pace. Everyone picks things up in a different way or sees it differently. And maybe just because you don't understand it at first doesn't necessarily mean you won't ever get it. Maybe it just hasn't been explained to you in a way that you best understand it. And it's not the fault of instructors either. There's so many different learning styles out there. There's so many different perspectives and approaches. It's, you understanding how you best learn. and then adapting that to your learning experience. I think that is probably the one advice that I could, provide to people who are either in the program or thinking of doing it. It's intimidating no matter what. And yeah, just, take it easy, relax at the end of the day, say, okay, what did I not get? And I'm gonna put this on the to-do list and revisit this in a week. Don't try to figure it out that night. Revisit it a week or something like that and see if it clicks or something. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, I think in kind of that same vein of like being easier on yourself and trying not to compare yourself to people who you think are learning faster than you, is to be okay with not knowing everything, because you won't. And it's actually like so much more practical like advice than I ever like really thought it would be. And I'll explain myself. Being okay with not knowing everything doesn't mean like not to challenge yourself. Like, try to understand the fundamentals, try to understand the core concepts, try your best to remember the syntax, or at least remember how you Googled it to figure out that syntax. But challenge yourself in that regard. But don't beat yourself up if it just doesn't quite make sense yet. And the reason why I think it's so practical is because working as a support engineer, and I'm not directly coding the software. For me, I get tickets from people all over the world who are using my company's software with problems. And we're a CI/CD company, so we're part of the like deployment process. And so it's very important that our stuff works, but that means that pretty much anyone can use our product. So that means that people are writing in a million different languages with a million different tools, and you just have to kind of like figure out what it is that they're trying to do. That doesn't mean I have to learn a million different languages. It just means that literally week 1 of JavaScript, knowing what a function looks like, knowing what a variable looks like, like very basic fundamentals are what I use constantly, because it's like, oh, well, between all of these languages, these things are common. So I'm able to kind of get to the bottom of it. And I don't have to remember the syntax of how to set up a perfect like React app, but I do know these fundamental skills that help me get through my day. So not beating yourself up about knowing every single little thing is super important. Like, I know I'm giving a really specific case where, I'm talking about my specific experience, but that's going to be the case wherever you go, because you're going to go to a company that might be a totally different stack than what Learn teaches. And that's fine, because if you know the fundamentals, you'll learn that new language, you'll learn that new tool way quicker. So, yeah.
Yeah, very much along those same lines. I started looking at job postings like week 3 or something, and I was like, oh man, there's like a lot of languages out there. There's a lot of frameworks. Oh boy, like let me just try and get, 6. And that was so dumb and just unreachable. And it shouldn't be. I mean, if they're going to look at your resume and see like, okay, well, you did a 4-month program, then to see like, oh, you're proficient in 4 different JavaScript frameworks, that doesn't make any sense. They're like, well, this is a liar. Like, and yeah, the other part of it is that you just get a surface, if you're trying to go too fast and too much all at once, you get this surface level understanding. And yeah, you'll come back around to this project in a month or 2 and you'll be like, oh, that's how you do an arrow function or something. And just, if you have those like deeply understood fundamental concepts, just like Rachel was saying, and you can explain them and stand by them and be able to say, oh, it's tic-tac-toe, but here's exactly how it works, and I'm really comfortable with every step of the algorithm that decides a winner. That's gonna be more impressive at the junior level than just having, oh, I know React and Vue and Angular, and you just probably don't. So it's being light on yourself to just know what you know and know it well.